Thank you. My question is for the minister responsible for residential tenancies, who is aware, I'm sure, of a recent CMHC-funded study, which I'll table, which shows that Nova Scotia has the second highest rate of evictions after only British Columbia of any province in the country. Now, it's not hard to see why we have this high rate of evictions. The rent cap doesn't cover new tenancies, and so there's an enormous financial incentive on landlords to evict their current tenants in order to bring in new tenants who won't be covered by the rent cap. Does the minister not recognize that by having a rent cap that doesn't cover new tenancies, the government is actually powerfully incentivizing landlords to put people on the street?
I recognize the Honourable Minister for Service, Nova Scotia.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I recognize that any time a tenant is faced with an eviction notice, it does put them in a difficult situation. I would remind the member and all Nova Scotians that when in fact they do receive an eviction notice, it doesn't mean that they're being evicted, Madam Speaker. The fact of the matter is, and you can't pick and choose which half of the rules you want to talk about, Madam Speaker, it's important to talk about the entirety of the rules. But when a notice is provided, again, I'll remind the House that the tenant can apply to the program and shouldn't apply to the program. And in fact, it stops the clock on that notice, Madam Speaker, until the matter is heard. I'll remind the House again, it's important for both tenants and landlords to understand what they're putting pen to paper, and especially when it comes to leases. Thank you very much.
I recognize the Honourable Member for Halifax-Chebucto.
Madam Speaker, the minister is evading the core point that Nova Scotia has the second highest rate of evictions in all of Canada. And with high eviction numbers come high numbers of people, of course, being without a home. So there's a recent survey by the Elizabeth Fry Society, I'll also table it, of people living outside in the HRM. And it found that 22% of them are there because they've been rent-evicted, a key strategy of landlords in order to bring in new tenants and thereby get around the rent cap. Why will the minister not put an end to the terrible number of evictions we have in Nova Scotia by making the rent cap cover all tenancies, new and old?
The Honourable Minister for Service, Nova Scotia.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. On the topic of rent evictions, we passed, it was like part of my first legislative package as Minister of Service, Nova Scotia, to bring strengthening protections pertaining to rent evictions, Madam Speaker. That was back in the fall of 2021. Again, Madam Speaker, I would encourage all members of the House to share with their constituents the entirety of the rules and the entirety of the statistics, Madam Speaker. Pertaining to rent evictions, Madam Speaker, there's been 267 applications for rent evictions in the province since March of 2022. 37 of those have been approved, Madam Speaker. So again, if a tenant is served with a notice for a rent eviction or whatever it may be, Madam Speaker, I encourage the member opposite to encourage his constituents to apply to the program. And again, it stops the clock on that notice until the program has the opportunity to hear that.